Welcome.
We have been trained from kindergarten through high school and even college how to work for somebody else.
Presented to you by...
Some people sit through 25, 30, 40 years of a job that they hate because they don't know another way out. Well, hello and welcome to the Exodus, recently rebranded. We're just excited to come alongside of you guys in your journey towards entrepreneurship. We've spent 5 shows, I think, under a previous name, which we will not mention. You can find it on the Facebook page. As we've kind of made this transition, and we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of why we made this transition to the Exodus. We touched on a little bit last week. But the idea, of course, is that there is a need for a movement for so many people out of the corporate world, out of the world of, being tied to a job, having your time and money kind of tied down. And especially in an environment that we're in today, where people are finding out that their jobs are not as secure as they thought they were. It's just a great opportunity to be able to show people another way. But we're going to take it a step deeper today and over the next couple shows and have some exciting guests lined up in the future as well as we dive into the mindset of an entrepreneur. So before we do that, I'm going to bring on the man that makes this possible, Mr. Lyndon Wilson, who runs The Difference Radio via Facebook. And of course, my longtime friend of 27 years and podcast partner, Blake Timmons. Welcome, guys.
There's Blake. Get him in here.
What's up?
What's up? Hello, everybody.
How y'all doing?
Awesome.
I'm great.
So Blake, real quick, as we touched on, I touched a little bit about the name change and why we wanted to call the show The Exodus. Just speak a little bit to that in terms of the mindset and the movement that we're looking at. I know, if you watched the show last week, you got a little bit of a glimpse. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, but just talk a little bit to that on kind of what we were thinking there and why that's such a passion in terms of what we want to do and what we want to bring to people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just time for people to kind of think outside the box a little bit, start thinking for themselves. And we just, me and you talk to people all the time that just aren't happy with, the way their life's going. They feel, trapped in a job that they don't like and working for a boss that they don't like, doing something that they don't really take any pride in. And there's never been a better time. There's never been more opportunities out there for entrepreneurs. And so me and you work in finance, but and we're passionate about that, helping people out there. But we kind of started realizing that the direction we were going, that we're even more passionate about just setting people free along their own path to where they can learn how to go down that path with the success. So many people do go down that path and, don't have success. And so we're just trying to set people up that if they would like to, start going down that path to freedom to where they would be set up with success. And, we basically realized that me and you are both really passionate about that and figured that was the direction we should take the show.
Awesome. And, Lyndon, you've been instrumental in helping us get this podcast off the ground. And obviously you've known Blake for 20 years, something like that. How long have you known Blake?
Whenever he was in 10th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade.
Well, you were there my freshman year. So
Lyndon used to coach Blake
22 years.
22.
I coached Blake in high school, and then we coached together after he got out of college. So it's been a long football journey for both of us.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, Lyndon, as we go into mindset today, and both of you guys probably more, well, not probably, definitely more so than myself, have been kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. I think before I developed it. Lyndon, take a second and just talk about, you don't have to go into details on all of your endeavors, but just kind of before we get into the granular side of things, as far as what does the day-to-day look like for an entrepreneur, in a sense, but to kind of take a step back and from your personal journey, why did you decide, hey, I've got to take my destiny, my financial success into my own hands?
Well, first, let me just start by saying that I created the difference to focus on and highlight the commonalities of people that do an exceptional job. A lot of us could do an acceptable job. Okay, we get our bills paid, we don't get fired. We do an acceptable job. Our clients, our customers, they're okay with our job, but we don't always do the exceptional job.
What a low bar.
Even though we work very, do what?
It's such a low bar.
Well, yeah, it kind of is, but you know, for a lot of people, it's kind of become we're all okay with it being acceptable as long as I get my money's worth. But some of us want to we feel good when we get more than what we were promised, or we feel like that anyway. And so what I really want to tell you guys, and I'm excited about the show, is because you talk about the things that make the difference. Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about today. One of those being, one of the things that I've found over the years is mindset in my observation, mindset is one of the first foundational principles that you have to have in order to be a successful entrepreneur and to be able to do an exceptional job. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But to answer your question, Nathan, I've told the story on the show before. My mother worked for 19 and a half years in the corporate world. And at 19 and a half years, she was laid off. They did so from a strategic reason for the company because they didn't have to pay her full retirement. And it was at that point in my life, right middle of college or right after college, where I was like, I developed a mindset that I just didn't trust people with my future. I just didn't. And being an entrepreneur is not all sunshine and rainbows and all the things that it's just not. There's a lot of challenges, but the thing that I take away every day is that tomorrow I control my own destiny, and I trust myself more than I trust anybody else. I like you guys a lot, but I still trust me more than I trust y'all as far as my own destiny. How much if I put more effort into it, will I get rewarded? The answer is usually yes. That's not necessarily true in the corporate world. And a lot of times we might get rewarded, but not at the level we feel like we were deserving of. So that's a little bit of where I come from entrepreneurial wise.
We trust ourselves more than you too, so it kind of works out perfectly.
Absolutely. I'm glad y'all do.
No, but it's been a great partnership. I encourage you guys to jump on some of the other shows on the Facebook page. Just great minds, great people in different areas of business ownership. But talking more specifically in the concept of mindset, we have Blake and I have a good buddy that we work with, Tanner Hawkins. I'll give him a shout out. And he's such a great communicator. And, he'll tell you this too, but great leaders borrow great ideas from other people. And so, some of the stuff I want to talk about today is some things that he shared with us in a training he did in our office a little while back, but I'm pretty sure he stole it from someone else. So that's just kind of,
he absolutely did.
Yeah. There's not a lot of original content out there when it comes to leadership. I mean, I guess, somewhere someone invented something, but it's just a matter of reading and taking other, the idea is not where the content comes from, but if you're applying it. So, one of the things that he started off talking about, and I think Blake, you can speak to this, is, okay, so you've made the decision to become a business owner, and obviously there's a ton of stuff involved in that. We're skipping a bunch of steps here, but we've been talking about that from a first step decision, that it's a possibility. So now as we shift gears into the more granular mindset type of thing, one of the things I want to talk about is, and Blake, you can speak to this. Okay, so you've done that. What is it going to cost you, right? And we talk about what we specifically do. There's not a ton of risk from a financial standpoint or a time standpoint, but there is a price to pay, right? To be successful, there's always a price to pay. So understanding what that price is and how we're willing to do that, if we're willing to pay the price, is kind of the step one. So kind of, Blake, take us through, how you determine what that price is and what your mindset should be as you're approaching your the goals that you set with whatever entrepreneurial endeavor you're setting out to achieve.
Well, I think the mistake that a lot of people make, and they end up wasting a lot of time because of it, is they try to negotiate the price, and pay as little as possible and see if that's enough to get it done. And it's not. So they'll try to pay a little bit more, they'll up the ante a little bit, and they keep on doing that, and they're wasting all this time. And eventually it's almost like, they run out of time, or eventually decide that it's not working out, but they really never paid the price. They never really put everything they could into it to achieve what they wanted to achieve. And I think the other way to think of it is, a lot of people, maybe they always were kind of trying to just slowly pay more, but a lot of times people do that, and they're actually working pretty hard. And if they continued to do that, they would eventually be successful. But eventually they say, well, I haven't done it yet. It's just not worth it anymore. And so they give up before the compounding of their efforts, they're really able to see it, right? It's like if I'm on a beach and I got, I'm digging for gold or using one of the metal detectors, and I just walked 5 miles, and I was like, wow, this isn't worth it. I hadn't found a dang thing. And the 6 miles where all the gold was, you just wasted all your effort. Most people give up before the compounding of their efforts really creates that reward. And that's one of the things we talked about on the first show is, talking about the attributes of an entrepreneur. And Lyndon, you said it's absolutely not all sunshine and rainbows. Most of it is not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Because you can go and
sometimes it's a hurricane, to be quite honest.
A lot of times it's a hurricane. I mean, there's so many things that we're challenged with as an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's just our clients. We can't seem to, it's not that we don't make them happy. It's not that we don't make them satisfied, but sometimes we don't feel appreciated for what we're doing and how hard we're working. They don't see how many hours we put in. They don't see the behind the scenes. It's kind of like the athlete, Blake. I'm gonna say that because Nathan got on me last night. It's like an athlete, Blake and Nathan, and in sports, Blake and Nathan. It's that
I'm surprisingly athletic, as Blake would say. Okay,
you are. I've seen you swing a golf club at a raccoon, but I saw you swing a golf club. So the elite athlete puts in more work that people don't see than the work that they do see. And that's the same thing for a really exceptional entrepreneur. They are working when the spotlight's not on them. They are taking care of problems. And it's those challenges that going into an entrepreneur, you've got to have the right mindset. Here's the thing. You're going to put in work, whether you're working for someone else or you're working for yourself. You're going to be more rewarded if you're working for yourself and put in the same amount of work. And it's like that. It's a meme or cliche or something out there. Working for someone else is hard. Working for yourself is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, though, I mean, when you're working for somebody else, it's working for somebody else. I mean, you can just coast on by making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, right? At any kind of job. And so that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 is so much easier than the money you're going to make working for yourself, right? And so that first, getting through that first, building the business, getting past those first milestones and getting through all the stuff and learning all the huge learning curve going into business for yourself. That's why most people don't make it. But the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year you can make working for yourself, that money eventually, once you have a system in place, right? If you really want to be an entrepreneur and really want to be a business owner, then it's not about being self-employed. It's about having a system in place that can eventually generate you income. That income eventually is so much easier than the $300,000 you could have made in corporate America, because you got to sell your soul sometimes to make that kind of money in corporate America. And somebody else even has more control of you sometimes because they're paying you more. And so it's the opposite when you're working for yourself. And so the price is so much more worth it when you're building your own thing, you're building your own empire for your own family, not working for somebody else. And it's definitely worth the price.
Well, and two, you talk about, Lyndon, choose your hard, working for yourself or working for someone else. But the idea, like Blake said, is, there is that transition where you are working for yourself or you're self-employed. But to evaluate, if what you're doing is worth it, you've got to remember where you're headed. And the goal, of course, is to have a system in place that's going to duplicate itself, that's going to, where you can step away for a period of time and still make money, still make income. Because the key to wealth is not, strange as it sounds, it's not actually money. To me, it's time, right? Because if I have unlimited time, that means that I'm not using that time to make money. So, you can, like Blake said, you can be comfortable. You can make 60, 70, 80, 100,000 a year. But to retire, you're putting in 30 years of time. Now, yeah, you can manage it well. You can still, spend time with your family. But imagine if you could put in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of time and then retire early and have all that time to spend with your family, other business ventures, travel, ministries. I mean, anything that you want to do. The key, you remember, the thing that holds us back from an employee standpoint is time and money. So our wealth, determining if we're actually wealthy or if we've succeeded, is, okay, now I have all the time in the world because I have a system in place. I have my money that's making money for me. So you remind yourself of that. That's your mindset. So that's why you say, when you have your goals, you've evaluated, okay, this is where I want to go. So the pathway to get there is worth it, right? So I've got to constantly be reminding myself of that. And then at that point, it makes it easier to commit to the sacrifices. It's still a day-to-day thing. I think all you guys would admit, and you're listening to three guys that, try to ingest a lot of wisdom, but you have to remind yourself of this stuff daily. You can have any day of the week where you wake up and just are defeated about something. Something didn't go right. A hurricane, as we talked about, is approaching. You're in that season. So it's not a thing where I've tackled mindset. I've figured it out. I'm indestructible. No, you have to constantly be feeding yourself wisdom, positivity, environment that fosters the type of effort and the type of accountability that's going to get you to where your effort is here, until you get to your goal.
I agree. I think that mindset is a lot like working out and gaining physical strength and getting in shape. I think that if you're not constantly working on your mindset, you will become weak-minded. And if you don't have the right people around you that are challenging you, there's so many people that get into entrepreneurship, self-employment, and they've got people around that support them. But it's also sometimes people that don't want to challenge them with the hard questions or the hard truths. And so, sometimes when it may get hard, and I've been in a situation before when it gets hard and you go to a person and you go, man, I started this business. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And then you get the advice, well, just go back to your old job. So that's kind of like what you're talking about, Blake. If you don't have that person that sits there and goes, Blake, you can do it, man. You started this for a reason. Let's not lose sight of your goal. Remember what you're working for. How bad do you want it? You got to be willing to be challenged too. But those people are going to do that. They're going to challenge you out of love. And those aren't necessarily your mentors. Sometimes you got to have that coach. Blake, you're coaching now. I don't know. How many years have you coached?
I think I'm going on 9 years.
Okay, you still got a few to catch me, but
I took a little break there to play for a little bit longer.
Oh, that's true, you did. But you know what it's like to coach. I mean, you got to get on those players. And one thing that Coach Wheeler said one time about me, and I'll never forget it. It was one of the biggest compliments I've ever got. Bar's always been slow on my compliment or low on the compliments, but he gave me one. He said he was talking to a parent, and he goes, Coach Wilson is really hard and very demanding, but no one loves him more than him. And he goes, and they know that. The kids know that. And I was like, wow, I didn't do it intentionally that way. But if I had that balance, that was good. And I think that we need those people in our life. I think that's one reason why we three have been close and gotten along for so long, because we do that for each other. A lot of times we do it in a kidding and joking way, and we're hard on each other. We're really hard on Nathan, but but you know what? It keeps us sharp. Iron sharpens iron. It keeps us sharp. We need that, and we need those people in our life. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have a good circle like that.
Yeah, amen to that. And I'd say if really if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur and building a business, you need to learn how to be a great leader also. And what you just said, I think, is possibly the number one leadership principle. And I've always heard it like this. I've always said it like this. They do not care what you know until they know that you care. And so because your players knew that you cared about them, then that allowed you to ride their butt harder. And, sometimes if a coach is just always just riding somebody and then has no relationship with them outside of that, eventually that'll break that player. He'll give up on that coach. He'll say, man, you know what? This guy don't even care about me. And he's just gonna, he's just out to get me. But when you're being hard on him, he knows it's because you believe in him and you see something better inside of him that he doesn't even see in himself. And then you know that he was created for more than he's currently doing. And he's got so much more potential that he's putting out there. And that's why you're always riding him, always holding him accountable, and always, pushing him to a new level. Then it works because he knows that he may not like it at the time, but he knows that you're doing it out of love. And that's the same with if you're leading a group of people. Now, you're not going to do it the same way as you would as a football coach necessarily, but you need to be able to spur them on to be their best. And, sometimes that's going to be some tough love. But if you're not building the relationship, and if you're not loving on your people and believing in your people and telling them that you're proud of them, then they're not going to give you everything. If they know how much you think of them and they know that you love them, when you call on them to step their game up, they're going to want to do it because they know that you see something in them. They know that you believe in them.
Right.
And to me, that's probably the biggest principle of being a successful leader.
Agreed.
Yeah. And sometimes too, depending on the type of business, like in real estate, I think some real estate agents have I'm not in real estate, so I'm sure Brian and some other people will tell me that I'm way wrong. But I think depending on the agency, sometimes you have maybe a little bit of a stipend or something to get you started. I'm not sure, but like with any business, real estate included, finance, whatever you're doing, whatever you're starting from scratch, there could be a time where your income is either lower or non-existent. And when you're working with people, that's where, like you said, the leadership that you instill in them is the same thing that you're reminding yourself is like, this is worth what we're doing. All the sacrifice, sometimes the sacrifices, I haven't seen any results yet, but you've got to keep pushing towards the goal, pushing towards where you're wanting to go, where you're headed. And, I think a good way of doing that too, like Blake said, is almost looking at people like if these aren't employees that you're not paying an hourly salary, if these are people that you're training to do what you do, or maybe they're agents on your real estate team, whatever, you almost have to look at them as volunteers, because sometimes we get as leaders, we get so kind of hell-bent on why don't people have the same mindset as me? Why aren't they as gung-ho as I am? And that transition, we have to kind of remember when that switch happened for us. And if we treat people like volunteers, we keep them around in our culture, right? We keep them in a atmosphere where we continue to feed them, we continue to encourage them, and at that point, then we can step up and challenge. Hey, this is what you need to do to succeed. This is why you're not succeeding. The people that stick around kind of show themselves to be ones that are ready for that challenge, and that's not applicable. I mean, it does kind of depend on the business structure and whatnot, but that mindset still, I think, is important when it comes back to loving your people, how you treat them, what your expectations are until they're ready for, that kick in the butt that sometimes we all need.
I agree. I think that with what Blake said and what you said, Nathan, showing that you care about the person, you care about their future, if they are your employee or whatever it may be, they're going to see that you have a vision for them in the future that may exceed what their own vision for themselves is, and you're helping them get there in any way that you can. And it's it's having a willingness and the ability to invest, to pour yourself and invest into people, invest yourself into people and their growth. I think that goes along with the love aspect of being a good leader. Blake, would you agree with that?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that, say that again. You think that what goes along with the love aspect?
Thanks for paying attention.
I just missed it. It broke out for a little bit on me for a second.
I was out. Okay,
are
bad.
Are we on right
bad,
now?
Bad connection. Bad connection. No, I'm kidding. I think that as a leader and as a mentor, as a coach, whatever you want to call it, when you're investing yourself and your time, Nathan talked about time being one of the most valuable thing. But when you're investing yourself and you're pouring yourself into someone else's advancement and betterment and growth, I think that is one way to demonstrate how much you love and care about them. And I think that's where they're going to be, in most cases, most people are going to elevate themselves and invest more in themselves because you're doing it too. They're going to want to match you. And that's kind of the pushing and the iron sharpening iron that we're all looking for. But there's so many people out there that call themselves leaders that tell you what to do, but don't want to be bothered to share some of their precious time in helping you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. And I think that, I always say you can do without loving, but you can't love without doing. Love is an action. If it's really true love, it's going to reflect itself in your behavior and the action that you take. And so if you are taking your most valuable commodity, time, and investing it in your people, then it's not just lip service. You're actually showing them. The best leaders lead from the front. They're not sitting there, hey, if I'm going to battle with somebody, is in the military on the battlefield, I want William Wallace next to me charging from the front of the line. I don't want some, I guess same movie, just take the British duties. Hey, y'all just go, and I don't really give a crap if you die. I'm gonna sit here and we'll probably win the war because we got more of them. So even if a lot of you die, probably more of them will die, and I'll just sit on here and sip on my tea or whatever I'm doing. Probably not in war, but you understand what I'm saying. So
what a reduction of all the British people ever.
I can see Patton sitting there with his tea and just
well, no, not Patton. Patton's American. I'm talking about.
I know that. I'm just saying. I'm comparing. He did go to war though. I'm just saying. Can you see Patton in war?
The reason that I chose tea is because that's what the British people drink, not the Americans. So you're ruining the analogy.
Sorry to all our plethora of British listeners that are now offended.
I don't think we're worldwide yet. So
okay,
we've got thousands of viewers.
True.
But my point is he just sitting back there and say, hey, you go get them, and not really supporting them, not really showing them how to do it. So if somebody is in the fight with you out there and showing you how to do it and right along your side and training you and investing in your life, right? I always say that's my favorite thing about what I get to do is that at the end of the day, I'm just in the people business. And the more I invest in my people's lives, the more I invest and make their lives better, the better quality of life I have for me and my family. And that's, to me, if you want to think about legacy and at the end of your life, that's the way that you leave more than you take, is just how many people's lives can you invest in. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you, Lyndon. And taking your time and investing in people's lives is a great way to lead and to show them that you love them.
So let's go back for a second to kind of the original concept when we first started this morning about the price that you pay. So we talk about looking at the sacrifices that you'll make, whether it be time, depending on what you're doing, maybe some capital investment. Obviously, there's the different seasons of controversy and defeat and obstacles that come your way. But like you touched on it a little bit about the mentality of some people, how they incrementally increase their effort. And then sometimes they'll be increasing it so much that by the time they get to where the level they need to be at, they're kind of exhausted. And especially if they haven't seen the results, that's when they start to taper off. And part of that is because Well, if you'd have been giving this maximum effort the whole time, well, perhaps you'd already seen results. Perhaps you've already grown to a point you wanted to grow to, or had more team members or agents or employees or whatever it is that you're doing, more sales, more whatever. And then you have this other mindset that's kind of this fluctuation of effort. And I think, like I talked about earlier, we all have the propensity to fall into that. But either one of you guys, Blake or Lyndon, what do you think the key is? And maybe your kind of, your daily routine or mindset to really challenge yourself each morning to give 100%, even on the days where you're going through a storm, going through a hurricane, whatever the case may be.
I had I was teaching a class one time, and we were talking about the saying of work smarter, not harder, which I believe in. I think that we have a misconception on that, though. I think that working smarter and not harder does not mean we work less. It means we work smarter. We're more productive with our effort.
Efficient.
And more efficient. Absolutely. And so when you're looking at the differences, shameless plug, when you're looking at the differences, number one is mindset. And the second thing that I think where most people fail, and I see it every day, is not planning your agenda, planning your time, planning your week, planning your day. And one of the things in a class that I taught one time, I said, you know what? We plan our trip to the grocery store. We plan our vacations. We plan weddings. We plan cowboy watch party games. We plan how much beer, for the people that drink beer, that kind of stuff.
Not this year, we don't, Lyndon.
Okay.
This year.
Well, we plan what we're going to do when the Cowboys suck rather than watching the Cowboy. I mean, what I'm saying is that we plan how to spend our money, but we don't plan how to make it. We just get up sometimes in a day and go, I'm going to work hard today, and whatever happens, happens. And we end up doing a lot of hard, busy work that creates no revenue.
Man, that's so funny that you said that, because literally last night I sat on my floor, strangely enough, I don't know why, and I went through my schedule for today. I added a bunch of things in, and that needed to be done, but they're things that are going to help me move to where I want to go. And I noticed the days that I've got a really rigid agenda, I am infinitely more productive.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
Yeah, it's so weird. The days that I wake up and I haven't, generally I know what I need to do every day, right? But the days I don't put it to paper, I end up, rabbit trailing on things that are not that they're not important. They're almost always business related, but from a priority standpoint, I think you're absolutely right. You have to. I mean, we have big goals, right? We have these long-term goals, and we talked about earlier. One of those is, okay, I want to have a business that basically provides cash flow, income. Okay, well, I've got to take that really big plan, and I've got to shrink it into now a 1-year plan, and now a 6-month plan, and a 3-month plan, all the way down to what does my actual day look like. And so I think that's along the lines of what you're talking about, whether you're looking at a microscopic level or a macro level, that all the things we spend hours planning, and we don't plan the thing that's going to get us really where we all want to be, whether we realize it or not. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things an entrepreneur could learn is how to plan out their day, because you ain't got no one else telling you how to do it. And I think it's probably one of the biggest reasons for failure is people just all of a sudden I'm free. I got this freedom. Like, yeah, you're free to bust your butt. You're not free to just, get out of bed at, 9 and 10 o'clock and you're going to fail, and you're going to not be free for long if that's how you handle your freedom. And so it's so important to plan out your day. I mean, like I think you said this before, like you're working for yourself. Like, what are you going to demand of yourself? You're your boss. You need to be tough on yourself, especially in the beginning. And so I couldn't agree more that so important. Can't emphasize enough. Planning out every day, planning out the week, planning out your month, planning out your goals for that week, for your month, week, day, and so forth. but also, on the talking about the work ethic and kind of how those tiers go and why most people don't make it and they give up and they weren't, really given as much as they could have to begin with. I think the way that you have to think about it in order to be successful, so the opposite end of the spectrum, we've been talking about the people that don't make it. I think the people that do make it, you have to assume the maximum price. You have to get into it saying,
Yes.
all right, I know I'm 100% certain that if I'm going to be successful doing this, I'm going to have to pay and sacrifice a great price. And so I think here's a great a great guide to help you know what that means. So sit down and write out what your non-negotiables are. And so if you put down what you are not willing to sacrifice, then you know what you are willing to sacrifice. And so if I say, all right, I am not willing, from this time to this time is going to be time I spend with my family on a daily basis. This time is going to be date night with my wife. Sundays, I'm not going to work. And you go along the lines and you think, to yourself, different things like that. I'm not willing. I want to be able to, coach my sons in all their sports. I'm not willing to sacrifice that. And so now that I know what I'm not willing to sacrifice, that means all the rest of my time, I'm willing to sacrifice that towards building a successful business. It doesn't matter if it's 3:00 in the morning. It doesn't matter. Whatever time is outside of my non-negotiables, whatever time is outside of not willing to sacrifice this, everything else is up for grabs. And I will do absolutely whatever it takes during that time to be successful. And then you couple that with you're on the schedule and you have it mapped out, your goals and what you're going to do. I think that is a great formula to be successful as an entrepreneur.
I agree. Nathan, real quick, I'd like to add something to what Blake said. And it's something we talked about, I think, on the last show. And Blake, you just talked about it, about what you're willing to sacrifice. You've got to have those realistic expectations set. And you've got to be careful because a lot of us go into entrepreneurship because we get tired of being bossed around. But we end up, because of the flexibility that we have, that's one perk to being self-employed. You have flexibility, but you still have to have discipline with that.
Absolutely.
Many of us end up being unsupervised employees. Okay. We have a job, but we have nobody telling us when to do it, how to do it, and what to correct. And so we become an unsupervised employee, and that doesn't work anywhere. The other thing that I think that we need to think about in being an entrepreneur, you wear many, many hats, correct? Absolutely. So let's think about it from this perspective. Let's just narrow it down to two hats: the boss and the employee. The boss plans, the employee executes. So you plan the night before, or you plan the week before, or you plan the month before, or the quarter, or whatever it's going to be. You, as the boss, you plan that. But now as the employee, I now have to execute that plan for the boss. And that's where the discipline comes in, and having people that can hold you accountable and remind you of what you're doing. But the realistic expectations of what I love that, Blake, because it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, you've known me for a long time. I coached football, and it took away from the businesses that I had, but I did that because it was, at the time, I was a trainer. So working with athletes and being a trainer kind of worked together. I mean, it was good marketing. It was good for my business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then also my son lived in Arkansas at the time, and the job that I had allowed me to be able to attend the games and stuff like that, and have the relationship with him that I looked for. But that meant working a lot of hours that a lot of other people weren't working as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you muted, Nathan?
Sure am. Speaking of that transition, we think about for a corporation or a job to run smoothly, you have to have management, you have to have employees, you have to have strategy planning, all those things. So those things can't be replaced just because you're in business for yourself or you're starting your own business. So it's like you say, we just kind of we get excited about the freedom. Oh my gosh, I don't have a boss anymore. Oh yeah, this can be great. And then you're just kind of floating around in nowhere's land. That's where, I don't know if you guys have ever had a boss that's micromanaging. I really have not in a very oppressive way, but we've all heard stories. And in some sense, micromanaging, it's kind of a pain to work for. There is a point to it. I don't know if it's a great way of managing people, but either
It's a
way,
horrible way of managing people.
okay, that's fair. I was trying to be nice. But either way, that mindset of somebody trying to have their hand in everything, at least to that boss, serves a purpose. Now, not to the employee, but when you become self-employed, you almost have to become that micromanager. But you're doing, I mean, you wanted the freedom, which is good. You wanted to control your destiny, your own path, whatever. But all of those details are important. So, like Lyndon said, you've got to now become the boss who's planning, and then the employee that executes. And if you don't see it that way, then a lot of stuff does fall through the cracks. So, with that freedom, what is it? With great power, what is it that Spider-Man
comes great responsibility?
So with great freedom comes great responsibility also.
Yeah.
That could bring about a whole nother conversation. But so I think that's something to realize, that the responsibilities that exist in a successful business do not dissipate just because you're working for yourself. They all get put on you. And you've got to realize that. And there's a huge benefit, of course, to being your own boss. And we talk about all those things. But to be successful, where you don't fail and get defeated and go back into the corporate world that you walked away from, those are the things you have to be reminding yourself of, and have a very strategic plan in place to accomplish that stuff.
Well, and when your boss is micromanaging you, if you're working in corporate America, the reason that's a bad thing, and the reason it's not a very fruitful leadership strategy,
not sustainable, really, honestly.
Well, you're just showing that somebody that you don't trust them, right? And so you're taking away their freedom, you're taking away their power to create, you're taking away their personality, you're taking away the strengths that they bring to the table, and you're treating them like a robot, right? A robot could, you tell all the ways that they could do it, and they do it exactly this way. And that just means that I don't give a crap who you are. I think nothing about you as an individual. This is the way that I want it done. This is the way that it will be done. I don't think you really bring anything to the table. I'm just glad that you got a beating heart and are breathing oxygen, because that's all I need you to do. And that completely takes away somebody's want to. It takes away their drive. It takes away their purpose. And that's why people that micromanage their employees never see a lot of success. But it comes down to a pride thing. And so, even if they do, I would say, depends on what I'm sure they can make a lot of money, but in my definition of success, that's not successful, because you're not having a positive impact on other people's lives. But when you're talking about micromanaging yourself, Nathan, it's the reason that's not a bad thing in that situation is because you're not taking away your own freedom, right? You're still within your abilities to create and to put your own personality on it and to have your freedom. It's really just discipline to focus all of your abilities towards one goal, and saying, well, I don't have the freedom to just go out and, go to happy hour for no reason or do whatever I want when I should be working, where I should be doing this or getting my business off the ground. You're just saying, within that freedom, if I'm going to be successful, I have to have discipline. And so to me, those are two completely different things.
Stringent boundaries, I guess, is a better way of looking at it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I mean by that is the micromanaged mindset of an employer is, like you said, it's very defeating and usually fails. But the level of detail is what I'm talking about, that you have to think through as a business owner. But
absolutely,
you talk about, as you grow your business, whether you have employees or agents or whatever the case may be, you've got to be careful not to turn into that person that you've left corporate America for. Right? So that's why loving your people and not being afraid to, to train them, turn them loose, and say, hey, and we talked a little bit on our training video the night about not being afraid to let your people fail, and that in failure comes what is it? You learn more through failure than you do through success.
I sure have.
Blake, you got a few stories too. I haven't went through
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never failed anything in my
I
life.
have life failures. Well, you just failed at telling me.
Hey, I got a quick question for both of you. You're talking about micromanaging, and I know as far as a coach, a lot of times we have to coach different players in different ways. So different things motivate different people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about being a micromanager, and we talked about this earlier, in being a leader, do you have to? I mean, this is a redundant question, really, but you shouldn't have to micromanage a person if you have set the work ethic by the way that you perform yourself as a leader, as a boss, as a employer. So if I as a boss show a lot of attention to detail, right, Nathan? That's kind of what you're talking about. That would, as a leader, people are going to follow that. If I'm a good leader. If I'm a ruler, however, that I'm telling everybody how it should be done, do as I say, not as I do, that is more of the micromanager. Is that kind of what we're talking about there and the differences?
Yeah, it's more, I mean, it's more of the, I guess I probably should use another term because micromanagement has such a negative stigma for obvious reasons. But
because it's negative. That's why it has a negative stigma.
Okay, I got it. I'm going to leave early, guys. I'm out of here now. But
no one realized that the Exodus was actually a comedy show.
Yeah, that's right. Or that one of us would be exodusing in the middle of the show. So,
that's what that means. Somebody gets pissed off sooner or later and leaves.
Who's leaving early?
Somebody's going to get kicked out of every show. You are
out next time. You are the weakest leak. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so call it what you want to, but I think that the idea that we're talking about is, when you all the levels of detail that you may or may not want to be involved in as an employee, or however you see that process, all that stuff falls on your shoulders as an entrepreneur, right? But then the key is, okay, so now we got to learn to delegate. Now we've got to learn to, whether it's through employees or through agents or however you're growing your business, to make what you're doing, to lead by example. If you're growing exponentially, it's creating systems that are duplicatable. You almost want to teach people to be better than you are, in a sense. And you do that through taking risk. You do that through trusting your people, even if they fail. And at some point, and it's hard depending on the personality type, it's hard because some people micromanage by personality type. They don't even do it in a mean or condescending way. It's just people are particular about certain things, right? So that for that type of personality, it's a real challenge as a business owner, especially when you're starting off by yourself, because you do have autonomy in all of your systems and how you do everything. But as you bring people on, well, if you're too complex, if what you're doing is too complex, people can get lost in the minutia and get defeated. They can quit. You're not scalable. You're not duplicatable. So all those things come into play. So there's a constant shift in how you operate as an entrepreneur, whether it's just you, or if it's now you and a business partner, or you and employees, or you and agents. So again, all this comes back to your mindset and what you are fueling your daily activity with, what you're fueling your mind with. Are you adaptable? Are you okay with change? Are you okay with, not changing for the heck of change, for the sake of change, but being growing. Exactly. Great point. Does that make more sense, Blake? Is that better?
I wasn't making fun of it. I was just saying, in general, micromanaging has a negative stigma because it sucks.
It does suck. You're right.
But you know what? Here's the thing I think that we're challenged with sometimes as the entrepreneur, and we come across as micromanaging because we are shouldering 100% of the responsibility of the success of that business. And what I mean by that, I know we have employees that contribute to the success, but if it fails, I lose everything. And so I think we've got to learn, again, that goes back to mindset, right? We've got to learn to manage that pressure and that anxiety of having this monumental responsibility like I never dreamed. I didn't have the realistic expectations Blake talked about in getting into this business. And so the pressure kind of gets to me, and I'm looking at maybe some of the most unstable parts of my business, and I'm pushing my employees beyond their limits. to try to make sure it doesn't fail. And I have the fear and the pressure of it failing on me. And I don't become a good leader and a good business owner. And I think that's a mindset that's part of the realistic expectations. That is part of having a good coach and a good mentor and a good circle around you to prepare you for that when you take that step into entrepreneurship. Yes or no?
I think an important part of that system is what you just talked about, Lyndon. If you come across as the leader and the business owner, and you have employees working for you, if you're like, pushing them and driving them and demanding their, this work ethic from them for your good, so you can make more money, and they don't really see any benefit from it, then I don't think that's long-term going to be very successful. You're not going to get the most out of your people. What I love about what we're able to do is the more successful my people are, the more successful my business is going to be. And so I don't have to talk about, hey, now as a team, I'll talk about our overall team goals and, hey, we're a great team and we're going to be able to do these things. But I get to talk to them on an individual basis because they actually have, their own businesses within a business with the way we operate. And so now I'm able to go to them and say, hey, let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about what you want to do. Let's talk about your vision. And so they know that I genuinely want to see them be successful. And so, but as far as running my business, then the more successful they are, the more successful that my overall business is. And that's completely opposite of, hey guys, I need to reach this goal to put food on the table this month, or to stay in business, or to be successful in business. So I need you to bust your butt for me. And then, but why are they going to do that for you if everything that you're saying and the general disposition that you have is coming from what's in it for me? You want to come from of it, hey, this is what's in it for you to be successful, and this is what you're going to get from it.
Yeah, you don't want to create the same atmosphere that you just left from.
Yeah.
It's like the what's the parable in the Bible about the guy that owes money, and he goes to the king, and the king, he has this kind of small debt, and the king forgives him, and this guy goes back to somebody that owes him, or he owed a huge debt.
It was forgiven to him.
Yeah, and the guy goes back to some guy that owes him like 10 cents basically, and he throws him in jail, beats him to death. Just kind of, it's hypocritical. We have to remember, like, okay, so even if we have a business that have employees, because what type of opportunity are we offering them, right? Are we giving them a chance to? Because most people that work at McDonald's probably aren't going to own a McDonald's, right? Most people that work most places, there's not a pathway to advancement, or ideally, if you work anywhere, that should just be some experience to get you on the pathway to business ownership of some kind. And we've talked ad nauseum about how that's not the case, but I think that's a responsibility that as we bring in more entrepreneurs and more business owners, that we help perpetuate a shift of mindset or ideas in the market that start, spinning off more and more business owners, so that, people are, the more business owners you have that understand that, the more businesses are created that allow people to then duplicate the process that, the person that brought them into that business is doing. And I think that's something that we have a unique ability to do, not just you and I, Blake, but as people on the show, on these shows in general, whether in real estate or whatever the case may be. I think that's something to keep in mind is, okay, remember how you felt while you went into business. So are you making sure that you're giving people the tools to succeed as well, the ones that you have? And I think that's something to always kind of keep on the forefront.
I agree.
So one of the things, Lyndon, that I wanted to kind of wrap up with, if you guys don't mind, we got about, I guess, 5 minutes or so. And Blake, you can jump in on this too. A couple things too. This book that our buddy Tanner introduced us to, it's called Keep Chopping Wood. It's for the slow reader like myself. It's only 50 pages long, and and it's $8. Keep Chopping Wood by Kevin DeShazo, I believe is how you say it. And I'm going to talk about this. I want to talk about this a bit next week, because and I'm not going to give away the story. Maybe you've read it. If you read it before next, I guess 2 weeks from now, the third Wednesday, you'll kind of know the gist. The idea is that, and it's a mindset book, is it's the little things that seem unimportant that actually that you do with consistency that actually form the big picture, the big goals that you're setting out. So I want to kind of tackle that a little more, and I think what we'd like to do next time is just take this a little bit deeper. We talked a lot about mindset, but then let's take it to the point of, okay, some actual principles. What does our mindset look like? What are some of the struggles that we have on a day-to-day basis, and really try to provide some real life examples, encouragements, failures, successes, and whatnot. And as always, Blake and I, when we end the show, we talk about being in the financial realm and being able to help people from a financial perspective, but is exciting and empowering. But more so, it's what we get to do for our agents and teaching people how we do what we do, giving them that same opportunity in a world where we talk about all the reasons why people don't go into business for themselves. The risk reward ratio, the capital investment up front, the overhead, things like that. All that is minimal to none. People, you hear the term, "Hey, we're in a recession-proof business." Well, a lot of people thought they were in a recession-proof business until a worldwide pandemic happened. Fortunately for Blake and I, we really have found a need that we're able to. I think individually and our company on the whole, nationwide, has been as successful as it has been in its 40+ year history. And so, being able to
Nationwide's not the company, by the way. It kind of sounded like you were making a plug for Nationwide. But.
Oh yeah, no, that does. Yeah, we're not on their side. Sorry, we're a nationwide company. Yeah, sorry. Good point. Thanks for catching that.
Yeah.
But when we talked about being able to duplicate yourself, being able to provide significance, all those things that I think we're all looking for down inside, even if we don't realize it, have been such a blessing. Blake, you want to sum up any of that in terms of just kind of I like ending the show that way, just to try to bring people back to why we individually, you and I, do what we do, and how we just feel privileged and honored to pour into people's lives in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife was a teacher, and I was working as a fireman and a football coach, and we loved what we did. We're just looking for more. Thought we could be more, do more, have more, give more, and we were looking to become entrepreneurs. And we had there's all kinds of obstacles that we always talk about, and the money, the idea, and the time. There's reasons why most people don't go down that path, and a lot of people that do attempt to do it, they don't end up being successful. And so we were blessed with an opportunity to have all those obstacles taken away from us, and basically get a risk-free shot at building your own business, investing in other people's lives, and being able to build a team and to pour into people. And it's just I think it's the best thing in American business. And I'm pro and want to support every entrepreneur out there. But as far as our specific system, it's been amazing for us, and me and Nathan love sharing that with people. So for everyone that's listening, if that's something that they thought about and they just don't really know how to do it, that's people that we would love to talk to and help them just go down the path to success of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Blake, I'm dropping both of y'all's contact information into the comments section, so that so people can know where to get in touch with you.
Okay.
So I've got Nathan's there, and then let me find Blake's here. There we go. Got Blake's as well. So if you guys are looking out there, if you're watching and you want to know how to get in touch with them, it is in the comments now.
Can I put this in too? Me and my wife, me and my wife are partners in the business. So on Facebook, it's just Blake and Brittany Timmons. Also, we post pretty valuable content on there as well.
And his wife is way better than him, so you'll really like her.
Way better than me. She should be the one on this show.
That's
Much better
true.
looking also.
She's listening, so you'll get some bonus points for that.
Yeah.
I
Love you,
agree.
babe. You're gorgeous.
Well, take us out, Lyndon. Man, thanks for jumping on with us today.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. Like I said, you guys are it's right up the alley of what the difference was created for. You are making the difference in people's lives, both financially and in different ways financially. And what I love about it is you're not just encouraging them to be entrepreneurs, you're giving them a pathway and a blueprint of how to get there. And you're preparing them, as we talked about, preparing them mentally for the journey. It's a great journey. And if you are prepared mentally, if you've got a good support group, you're gonna improve your chances of success. And trust me, as I said, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but the wins are big. And if you like winning, this is the thing to do. So we want to thank everybody for watching today. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We do the first and third Wednesday called the Exodus. And so we're about to exodus right out of here, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.